This is probably a really bad idea, so I don't recommend you try it at home, but I was curious to see if it would work. And since this video is sponsored by Vevor, I thought I might as well try using the Vevor mag drill on the Vevor Anvil. There's no doubt cheap bargain brand tools can save you money in your shop and allow you to get some things that you might not otherwise be able to afford. But are they really worth it in the long run? Do they wear out so fast that you're going to end up spending twice as much money buying multiples of cheap tools than you would if you just bought one tool right up front? That's really hard to say, and I don't think I'm going to answer that in this video. But I realize that a lot of people simply don't have the budget to buy the name brand tools, and most of us don't have the budget to buy the top of the line industrial tools. And while I generally believe in buying the best tool you can afford, sometimes that's the budget tool, and sometimes you're never going to get your money's worth out of the name brand tool. If you're only going to use it a few times a year or only need it for one project, then the budget tools might be the way to go. But right now, Vevor, who sells budget-friendly import tools, likes sending things for us to look at here on the channel, and I don't see any reason to turn those down, even if they aren't necessarily what I would buy. So far, everything they have sent has been a completely usable tool. It gets the job done. And today we're going to look at the mag drill. It's kind of like a mini drill press, but instead of being wobbly because it's kind of lightweight and doesn't have a base on it, any steel surface you put this on becomes its base. There's a powerful electromagnet, and now that thing is solid. I might be able to pick up the workbench using the magnet on this drill. And that's what makes these things really useful. For me, most of what I've used mag drills for in the past is actually working on a steel bench like this when I wanted to mount a vise or a Whitney punch or a Beverly shear, something like that. This is way better for drilling holes in your steel workbench than trying to do all that with a hand drill or even with a cutting torch. A mag drill is the right tool for the job. The question is this budget-friendly mag drill that Vevor wants us to look at really going to do the job? What can you do with it? Right off the top, I'm going to say if you're going to use a mag drill day in and day out in your business, if you're doing big steel construction work where you have to drill I-beams and angle irons, and you're working with this thing upside down because the magnet will hold it upside down. It's got a safety strap so it doesn't fall off if you lose power. You'll probably want a name brand mag drill with a few more features than this one might have. But if you got a small blacksmith shop and occasionally you need to mount a tool to your steel workbench, maybe you're doing some sort of an install job where you need to drill holes in some vertical framing member or overhead framing member, and you only do that a few times a year. And for the price, this might be a good choice for those kind of jobs. Now, most mag drills that I've used in the past are single speed. This one actually has a variable speed knob, so that could come in handy for something. It's got the switch that activates the magnet, that turns it on, and it's magnetized. Power switch. And for safety reasons, the magnet is the first power that has to come on. If the magnet's off, you can't turn this on, so there's no risk of accidentally starting the drill, trying to drill, and having it move around on you. I think that's probably true for most mag drills. This did come with a conventional style drill chuck, so you can take up to, I think, 1/2-inch drill bits in this. Mag drills are typically used with hollow drill bits called annular cutters, and those are really a fast, efficient way to drill larger diameter holes in plate and structural members, things like that. But this does not come with them. Vevor does have some packages where you can get a similar drill with annular cutters, or you can buy the cutters separate from an industrial supplier. Just depends on whether or not you need them and whether or not you need a whole set. You may just need one size. Now, I don't have a steel bench that needs a hole drilled in it, so I'm going to clamp something up and kind of mock up that situation. And then we can see how this drills, don't say, a 1/2-inch hole in a piece of steel plate. Okay, now right off I see a problem trying to use a 1/2-inch bit in this the way it is. Oh, wait, maybe it's not up all the way. Not quite enough room. You'll need shorter length drill bits probably for this particular drill if you're using longer bits, and as bits get bigger diameter, they tend to get longer. This just doesn't quite have the reach. You'd have to shim this up, which for most uses for a magnetic drill, I wouldn't recommend. So I'm going to go to a shorter bit and we'll still drill a hole in this piece of 1/2-inch plate. But you can buy short drill bits and those would probably work fine in this. And the annular cutters are considerably shorter. Now vevor did send this little drill out at no charge. They are sponsoring the video, but they don't provide any talking points. I get to say whatever I want about this drill. That's one of the things I kind of like about working with vevor, is they don't make you jump through those hoops. So I'm going to give you as honest a review of this as I can, although in an hour or 2 hours of use here this morning, I'm not really going to be able to form a solid opinion on how good this is. You would have to use this thing for months, years to really find out. I'm just going to find out, is it a functional tool the way it comes out of the box? So that's a 3/8 hole in a piece of 1-inch plate. Does bog down a little bit, but it got the job done. And I think if you then went up to a 1/2-inch bit, it would do that. You just have to buy shorter 1/2-inch bits. And what I've created here might as well be a little drill press. I can now bring other stock in here. Don't have to magnetize this to the material you're drilling. You can magnetize it to a table and use it just like you would a drill press. Now that made short work of drilling a 3/16 hole in a piece of 1/4-inch flat bar. That might be a really good use for something like this. If you have a small shop, don't have a dedicated drill press or a place to put one, something like this will go under your bench, on a shelf, in a cabinet, wherever it is you need to store it. And it's easy to get out and set up if you just have a little steel work table. And you could probably design a little base for this that brings it up and gives you enough reach for those longer drill bits. The drill chuck is just held in by some set screws and takes up considerably more space than an annular cutter does. These actually come with a center pin, and that's used to align with a center punch mark if you need a center punch mark, but that then retracts all the way back up into here. And it cuts a slug out. I'm going to set up a little guide here, or at least I'm going to try to. I'm putting in a cutter that's got about a 3/8 inside diameter, because for this I want the inside. And I have a piece of 5/8 square bar that I've center punched the center of. If I were going to do this all the time, I would make a better setup for this instead of this quick clamped up thing. So if you do a really good job of getting that set up so everything is perfectly aligned, perfectly centered, perfectly plumb, although this does look very straight, it's just not quite perfectly centered, you can use that for creating tenons. It would be very repeatable and it would be very efficient once it's set up. So if you had to do 100 tenons for a big gate or something like that, this might be a good way to go. My understanding is that the Samuel Yellen shop used to do it this way. I don't know if they used a mag drill or if they had a milling machine that ran hollow drill bits or how they did it, but this is not a new idea. Now there's one other thing I'd like to try with this mag drill. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I figured since Vevor sent me the mag drill, and since Vevor sent us the little anvil that doesn't have a very useful pritchel hole, I'm going to see if I can drill a pritchel hole in this anvil. Now I don't necessarily recommend this. The anvil is hardened steel and it's good and hard. I can't really make a good center punch mark in it without flattening my center punch. But a drill bit should be a lot harder than the anvil is. So I'm going to give it a try. Worst case scenario, I end up with a little divot where I didn't want one. Or maybe I can buy a higher quality drill bit. I don't have any cobalt bits. I think they're supposed to be a little bit harder. And of course a solid carbide bit would drill this no problem. But it's really easy to shatter a solid carbide drill bit. So that's a really bad idea. I wouldn't recommend trying that at home. But I thought it was worth trying. I'm really not out anything other than I'm going to have to sharpen that drill bit now. But that hardly even left a dent, which really attests to how hard these Asayo anvils that Vevor sells really are. So that's a good thing in that regard, I guess. Still don't have a good usable pritchel hole for this anvil, but it's not the end of the world. You can punch over the hardy hole. I didn't really think I'd be able to drill a pritchel hole in that little anvil, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really not out anything if I had hurt the anvil. Worst case, I'd have a little dimple in there, and really all I got out of that was about what a center punch mark would have been if I could have marked it with a center punch, but that's all the drill cut was, maybe a 32nd of an inch deep. It's not a very deep mark, not going to affect anything. That's not someplace I'm doing any heavy forging. It would be an ideal place for a pritchel hole, but I really doubt I'm going to go buy a solid carbide bit for $40 or $50 or however much they cost just to find out if that would work. It's tempting, and who knows, maybe I'll change my mind at some point. But that has nothing to do with the drill. The drill spun the drill bit just fine. It's just the drill bit was not capable of cutting through the hardened steel anvil. But now the question is this a usable tool that should have a place in your shop? Well, I can't tell you if it should have a place in your shop or not. I have another mag drill that's probably a little bit higher quality than this, so I'll probably pass this one on to somebody else. I got a buddy that says he doesn't have a mag drill, so if he wants this, I'm going to give it to Mike. But if you have a very limited budget and you have need for a mag drill, this might not be a bad option. This is under $200, and that includes the shipping here in the US. So if you were going to go rent one 3 or 4 times over the next couple of years, you probably would be money ahead buying this. And if you only lasted through those 3 or 4 uses, you wouldn't be out anything. And I'm sure it's going to last a lot longer than that. If you're setting up shop and you're building steel benches and you need to drill holes for mounting vices, this would get the job done. I haven't tried it overhead or anything like that, because I just don't have any need for that, and I don't have any overhead steel or vertical steel in this building, but all I have are the benches and the tools that have horizontal surfaces. This does come with a safety strap, and if you're using it anything but flat on a horizontal surface, you need to put the safety strap on it so that if you lose power, it doesn't fall off and hurt somebody. Also comes with a little cooling tank so you can put some cutting fluid or even just water in this. Mounts to the other side of the drill over here. Has a hose that goes to a little valve on the bottom. And that way you can run something to keep your bits cool, which for the annular cutters is probably worthwhile because those things can be pretty expensive. Whether this tool fits your needs in your shop is entirely up to you. It's a functional tool. It gets the job done. It does what a mag drill needs to do. No idea how long it's going to last. It certainly doesn't have all the bells and whistles. I've used other mag drills that the magnetic base can be set in place, but the drill is still adjustable. It has a separate lockdown for the drill. So you can get that drill bit alignment just perfect, even though it's already magnetized down to the base. And that's kind of a nice feature. Not absolutely necessary. Old mag drills didn't have that. The other mag drill I own doesn't have that. And of course this one doesn't have it. But I was able to line it up with the center punch mark of those test pieces. So it's not an absolute necessity. It's a little bit loose in here in the guides. There's just a little bit of play, but those are adjustable. There's some set screws on the side. You could fiddle around with that and probably get that nice and snugged up, and it would run a little bit more true. But since the drill bit wants to grab the center punch mark, I don't really think that hurts much at this point. If it gets any sloppier, I would certainly adjust it. I want to thank vevor for sponsoring today's video. Their sponsorship is helping fund the improvements in the little hand tool shop so we can get that set up and ready to go and start making some of the videos over there. In the meantime, I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop. Be safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next video.